Senate Government Operations Committee. It is Wednesday, March 17th. And as Senator Collmore has reminded us, happy St. Patrick's Day today. He has on his tie. The rest of us, I guess, and Senator Parent also has on his tie. I guess you can tell who are the Irish among us. In any case, welcome. And we have been working with Senator Parent around his amendment. And I know that we voted 3-2 yesterday to not support it, but supported the basic concept that we want to continue to increase participation in our elections. So I believe Ameren has a new amendment that if you would, I don't know if everybody got a copy of it. If you want it, or if it's posted, and if you would like to share it, Senator Parent, do you want to tell us what your intention here is? And
yeah, so from the beginning, I obviously started at one level, but always with the hopes, and I appreciate the committee and the Secretary of State for working with us to get to something that we could all agree on. I understand that not being in the building, this process just gets a lot harder, but ultimately, came down to another version of language that I think the chair of the committee could support, and I hope the rest of the committee could support, and the Secretary of State's office. And basically, we'd be asking for, on or before January 30th, 2023, the Secretary of State's office shall submit a written report, so no study committee, just a report from the office, to the House and Senate Committees on Government Operations with its findings and recommendations for legislative action on issues related to implementing universal vote by mail for municipal and primary elections, and the impact of expanding vote by mail would have on access to voting among those who have historically been disenfranchised in populations that have historically low voter turnout, and a few other minor things. But ultimately, it gets to what I was hoping a study committee would get to. The time's only a month or two later than what we were asking the study committee to do. Obviously, I think this is probably as far as we can go to do anything, and just hope to gain your support on this iteration of the amendment.
thank you. Chris Winters, would you like to?
Sure. Thank you, Senator. Chris Winters, Deputy Secretary of State. And we have no problem with this amendment, and we thank everybody for working on it. We're just really glad that there's so much broad support for vote by mail. And as we've been saying, we just need to approach the August primaries and the local elections really cautiously, as there are very different issues to consider there than there are for a general election. And this amendment would have us look at that, look at these issues over the next year and the year after that, and then bring forward our analysis with a proposed path forward. So we have no issues with this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Collmore?
I support it.
What?
I support it.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks. I didn't hear that. Senator Polina?
I like it.
Okay. Senator Rahm?
Yes, I really appreciate, Madam Chair, you sort of taking extra time on this, and I do support it.
Thank you. And I will get Senator Clarkson when she joins us. And Senator Parent, I appreciate your. I know you were in the car when we were talking, and you were far away from your computer, so giving me the authority to talk with Ameren and having her draft this was helpful.
And again, I appreciate the committees, giving me 4 meetings on this and getting to a point where we can say, yes, I really appreciate it, and look forward to working with you as we move forward. And hopefully in 2023, when we get the results from this, to do something exciting.
Whoever is here in 2023.
Right. It's important that you stuck with it though, Corey.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Thank you. And I think that we should say that from the very beginning, we all appreciated the intent behind your initial attempt here. So thank you.
So, and I appreciate you guys willing to work with me. So thank you again for the process.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right. So do we have Gail, do we have John Gannon, Representative Gannon?
While Gail's answering, I told Representative Vihovsky I'd text her when we were seeking her. I don't know if Representative Vihovsky was going to come in on boards and commissions from House.
Oh, I thought it was Representative Gannon. Oh, okay.
Actually, Rob Leclerc as well.
Okay.
And then
On boards and commissions?
yes, on boards and commissions, and then John Gannon on the State Ethics Commission.
Oh, yeah, he's on ethics. So who is the person that you are?
Tanya Vihovsky from Essex was, I think, supposed to join Rob Leclerc she said she was asked to come in.
Oh, okay.
I know she's a member of she is a member of House Gov Ops. I know that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't
all
know
right.
if she'll get Rob. I don't know.
So, Gail, if you want to send them a note, Senator Rum, I think it's better if we have Gail do the contacting,
Okay.
just so that it kind of comes from one place so that everybody knows that we're on the same page.
Yeah, I can't remember why she said she needed some extra text help, but I'll just
She needed extra tech help.
text, like she needed a text for today because she had a lot going on or something. So.
Oh, okay.
Madam Chair, I'm going to sign off. I do want to say thank you to the committee for your work on that amendment. That was a difficult one, and we really appreciate your patience with us.
Thanks.
Actually, it wasn't all that difficult. It just took, because of the way we're doing this, it just
Yeah,
took more time than it.
Karen
We
said,
probably would have had it solved in 20 minutes had we been in the State House.
Yep, great. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so I guess we'll wait for the representatives to join us. And I wonder if we should call Senator Allison and find out, make sure she's okay.
She might have
There she is.
There she is.
There she is.
was about to defend your
I
honor.
apologize.
You're
Don't have to
frozen.
get frozen about it.
Oops. Sorry.
Is it me or is it Senator Clarkson?
Allison's frozen.
Clarkson.
You keep freezing. You are frozen right now, Senator Clarkson. I don't know if maybe you want to jump off and jump back on.
She looks scared.
Wouldn't you be if you were looking at us?
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll, as soon as they join us, we'll do this.
Here she comes.
There she is back. Are you having technical difficulties, Senator Clarkson?
Not now. I wasn't. No, I'm sorry. I got waylaid by the protest.
Okay, and then you keep
Apologies.
freezing. You keep freezing.
Who kept freezing? I
You.
froze too. Am I frozen now?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yes.
It's like she made it happen.
And you're frozen again. So. All right, well, isn't there some kind of a children's movie called Frozen?
I was going to say, it's like we're part of a Disney movie. It is called There's Frozen and Frozen 2.
Oh. All right. Well, not having little kids anymore, I'm really not familiar with it, but I think.
Yeah, I didn't
know
watch
there-
it. I just know it exists.
It's, I'm going to, before we start here, I'm going to just tell you something about this Frozen thing. They had a thing to honor in Governor Scott's office. A couple of years ago, they had this thing to honor 50 years or something of Mazda's store. And he was sitting there and his son-in-law told this story about how he was ordering he does the ordering now. And Mazza was looking at the list of breakfast foods that had been ordered, and it said frozen. And he got really annoyed, and he went to his son-in-law and said, "We have fresh food. We don't order frozen breakfasts." And it turned out that Frozen was the Disney kind of title of this new cereal.
Right.
I just thought I'd share that since we were talking about Frozen. But okay, so here we are. We have with us Representative, how do you pronounce your name?
Vyhovsky.
Vyhovsky?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we have somebody in witness protection. It says Rob Leclerc, but I'm not sure if that's who it really is, but we'll trust that it is.
That would be me, Madam Chair.
Okay. So would you like to talk to us about, I believe the number is H-122, the Boards and Commissions Bill? And let us, Representative Vyhovsky, you probably don't know us, so let's introduce ourselves first, because
Really?
Yes?
Allison's in the waiting room, I think. She's just in the waiting room.
We'll let Gail let her in. Okay, so I'm Jeanette White, and I am from Windham County.
I'm Anthony from Washington County.
Brian Collmore from Rutland County.
Keisha Ram from Chittenden County.
And we will be joined by Allison Clarkson from Windsor County. Okay, thank you.
I think she's still having problems.
All right, well, we'll just keep going here, and we'll have Senator Clarkson with us when she is, and when she isn't frozen, she'll be with us, and when she's frozen, she'll be frozen. So
I'm here if you can hear me.
we can hear you. Okay.
I don't know. As you know, I had it's all a bit of a Band-Aid fix on our internet right now.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to turn this over to Representatives Vyhovsky and Leclerc to walk us through and tell us about H-122, and then we'll go to Ameren to answer any technical questions, okay? Thank you.
Right.
And
Great.
forgive me, because I'm going to
Rob,
eat my sandwich.
you're
I'm still
back.
starved. What?
Yeah. Rob,
I-
you're totally backlit.
Yes, we have already
But we were
commented
kidding.
on
Sharon,
that.
does that help at all?
It actually isn't Representative Leclerc. It's somebody impostoring him. So if you would like to take it away.
All right. Well, Ms. Vyhovsky and I had co-presented this on the floor of the House, and she actually set a very high bar for us. So I will take the first couple sections and then yield to the member from Essex.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Now I think Representative Leclerc froze.
Okay, we still have Representative.
So maybe let's jump to your sections first, Representative Vyhovsky, and then we'll come back to Representative Leclerc, because I don't think they have to follow in sequence, do they?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, great.
Perfect. So the Boards and Commissions Bill, as I'm sure you know, is a regular bill that looks at boards and commissions that are set for sunsetting. I will speak to sections 4, 5, and 6. Section 4 codifies the Commission on Women in a different chapter of Title 3, Chapter 70. It was created by executive order and is currently in the section of law regarding the governor, where however, as an independent commissioner, it should be moved to Title 3, Chapter 70. Section 5, subsection 1, removes the party limitation from the governor's appointees. This was justified as Vermont does not require party registration, so it could be difficult to prove civilian party affiliation. Section 5, subsection B, clarifies that each legislative chamber can appoint a maximum of 2 legislators who cannot be from the same party. All other legislative appointees will not be legislators. Section 5, subsection C1 establishes a maximum of 4 legislators on the entire commission, and subsection I-1 removes the restriction on using funds for legislative advocacy, as the Women's Commission was the only commission to have this restriction. And then subsection 6 is conforming revisions on the codification and redesignation. Section 7, 8, and 9 removes the following boards and commissions. The Toxics and Technical Advisory Committee has not met since 1996, and the Division of Pollution and the Office of Pollution Prevention that it is to report to no longer exists. This work is now being done by the Interagency Committee on Chemical Management, so this work is continuing, just not in this committee that is being repealed. Section 8, the Champion Land Transaction Citizen Advisory Council was set up to resolve concerns with the state's purchase of Champion lands in 1998. It last met in 2001. And since the council has not been meeting, the Agency of Natural Resources, Forests, Parks, and Rec and the Department of Fish and Wildlife have established a process for obtaining this public input on land management practices and recreational access. Section 9 repeals the working group on conservation easements that was created for a one-time 2012 report on perpetual easements. This report was completed and the group has not met since. I would now like to hope that Representative Leclerc is back and can speak to his sections.
So before we jump there, I just want to ask the committee members if there are any questions for Representative Wachowski on her sections. That was a very nice, concise report.
Thank you.
Senator Polina.
I guess I'm not really sure I know exactly my question, but it has to do with the Commission on Women. I mean, there was a couple changes there. And I'm just wondering why they were made. I'm scrolling back, but there was one about the party people being on the commission. And can you just talk a little bit about what's going on with the Commission on Women?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Commission on Women has half of its members appointed by the governor, and it was recommended by the boards and the Sunset Advisory Committee that the party affiliation be removed from those appointees as they're meant to be citizen appointees, and we don't require party registration. And so it could be difficult to determine the party affiliation of a citizen that has not previously run for office or been involved in party politics. So that's why that happened.
Got it. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to jump back to the House floor then, because I have to report a bill there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good luck on your report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm very, very sorry about that. My
that's fine.
overheated and down it went. So just to go back briefly to the beginning, there were some very slight changes. Section 1 was deleted because the National Forest lands, it looks like they had only met once. And to be quite honest with you, they're not quite sure what the purpose of it was initially anyway. And then Section 2 and 3 are purely technical changes, just referring to in the state and the national forests in the state to clarify where that's going to have jurisdiction. I think Ms. Wachowski stopped at Section 10. We repealed the pre-kindergarten 16-council. As it turns out, that is a group that hasn't met very often, is not very active. And there are other agencies, whether it be the state board, Department of Education, that is taking on some of those other issues that they were looking at. And then moving on to Section 11, the Vermont Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund. Again, there's just some technical changes around that just talks about that the council was created, takes the word title and replaces it with section, and then it shall not meet more than, it shall not, instead of no, the word goes to not, more than 2% of the assets available. So it just goes on. But the substantive part of this is that the Vermont Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund, it goes through and puts down, it specifies who is a member of this organization and who appoints them. And I think that is it as far as H-122. And it did pass out of our committee unanimously 11-0-0.
Any questions? Yes, Senator Colomer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Did the other representative just say she was going to go on the floor to report it? So you haven't reported the bill on the floor yet?
Oh, yeah. No, we have reported this bill. Yes, sir. She has another bill to report on the floor today.
So I'm guessing that it was a voice vote and there was no opposition?
Thank you.
That is, yeah, there was no roll call that I recall, and yeah, there was no opposition. It's well, it's probably a well-used term, but there's very little that would be controversial in this.
Thank you.
And of course, a very hard-working boards and commission group vetted it very well.
Yes, we did.
In full disclosure, I think we should say that both Senator Collmore and I are on the boards and commissions committee, as is Representative Leclerc. So, but I do have one question that isn't. Do you want to get back to the floor? Because I can leave this question for later.
And I'm happy to spend some quality time with you there, Madam Chair.
Thanks. My question really is just curious. In our original report, we eliminated the State Board of Education.
Mhm.
And the feeling was that it would prompt them to make needed changes in their duties vis-a-vis the duties of the the Agency of Education.
Mhm.
That was removed, I understand, in deference to it be the issue being taken up by the House Education Committee. Oh, no, actually what we did was originally we had that in there. We then, the Senate Education Committee last year passed a revised, worked with the department or the Board of Education to, completely revised the statutes around the Board of Education. And we put their bill, it never got taken up in the House, and we put their bill in the original boards and commission report. It was removed in deference to the House Education Committee, where they were going to address the issue. My question is, have they addressed the issue, and is there a bill that would do this from the Education Committee? We can also hear from them, but.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's an excellent question. And I don't know about the specificity as far as I do know that we had the chair of the House Education Committee come in and speak to this and had committed to working on it in their committee along with on the Senate side. As far as the current status of any particular legislation, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, Jeanette.
Okay, so we might want to look again at both the education committees and see where they are with this, and consider putting back the original Senate bill if we need. Senator Collmore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Which section was that in, Rob? Because all I see are deleted, and I'm trying to remember. Was it section?
Oh, well, this originally was like a 72-page bill, and then it got consolidated. I don't know if Ameren could maybe speak to that.
Ameren?
The record, Ameren Abergilly, Office of Legislative Counsel. The State Board of Education piece was taken out before the bill was approved for introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah. It was never part of it was kind of taken out in the drafting process. Yes. Okay, so we will hear more about that. But are there any questions? Okay. So thank you, Representative Leclerc, and you certainly are welcome to stay with us for absolutely as long as you like our company.
Well,
and when you leave, we won't be offended thinking you don't like our company.
Well, I do appreciate the hospitality and thank you. We do have kind of a busy day on the floor, and I'm feeling compelled to get back there. And
what are you doing on the floor?
We have several bills, probably upwards of a dozen that we're working on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
See you later. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
See you later.
So committee, do we want to have Ameren walk us through the details of the bill, or are we, were the reports walking through it through enough? Just, I hate to use Amren's time if we don't need her to walk us through with it. But if we do need more detail, anybody?
I'm fine not walking through it.
Senator Clarkson?
I apologize. I had incredibly spotty internet during the course of that entire presentation. So I have actually almost no idea of what was said, but I will catch up offline. I think I think I'm fine. But I would love it at some point for somebody to, I think I'm fine and support the changes that they've made. As long as you two are the authorities of knowledge on this, you sit on the group that's proposed the changes. So
We do.
I would defer to you on these.
Perhaps the best use of Amren's time and our time, and the only part where there really wasn't much, except for some technical changes and removing boards or commissions that hadn't met for 10, 20 years, some of them. The Commission on Women is probably the most complicated of the changes. So perhaps if we had Amren walk us through that section so that we really have an understanding of what happened there. Does that make sense?
Yes, that
Sure.
would be great because I missed that.
Okay, great. So Amren, can you walk us through that section?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Beginning on page 3 in section 4. Section 4 adds a new chapter to Title 3, Chapter 70, Commission on Women. As most of you heard, the Commission on Women is currently under the governor's section in Title 3, and as the commission was originally created by an executive order by the governor, and it was later codified but not moved out of the governor's section of Title 3. So it is now being moved into its own chapter in Title 3, Chapter 70. Section 5 goes through and in part redesignates all the section numbers now that it's in a new section. So you'll see that at the beginning, it's no longer section 22, it's section 5025. And the next change is on page 4. This is through subsection B. This is regarding the appointments to the commission. As you heard, there was testimony that as these are citizen appointees who are not required to register a party affiliation, the references to requiring that an appointee be of a particular political party have been removed. So that is in subdivision 1 for the 8 members appointed by the governor. And then you'll see also in subdivision 2B, there's some rewording here. So now that each chamber may appoint not more than 2 legislators, and if a chamber appoints 2 legislators, they shall not be from the same political party. And then you'll see there's a new subsection C1, not more than 4 legislators may serve on the commission at one time. The next change, unless there are questions.
I think that one of the, if I can just explain maybe a little bit about the thinking behind that, not more than 4 at a time, that there could be people whose terms overlap, or somebody who is appointed as a citizen and then becomes a legislator. And then we just wanted it to be clear that there should not be an overabundance of legislators on this committee. So if somebody is on the commission and then becomes a legislator, and that means that there are 5 appointees there, that person would have to resign.
But doesn't it, I mean, not a big deal, but doesn't it say that there used to be only 2 appointees from the General Assembly? And now there's gonna be 2 from each chamber?
No.
Okay.
I don't have it right in front of me, but I think that there always were two from each chamber. Senator Collmore, do you remember?
Yeah, there's originally, Senator Polina, it says 8 members shall be appointed by the General Assembly, 4 by the Senate Committee on Committees, and 4 by the Speaker. You'll see that on page 3.
Right, I see that, yeah. It's not a big deal. I was just trying to read it. It just was reading. I wasn't getting the reading straight. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I interrupted, I think.
The next section with changes, you will scroll down to page. Oh, I see. That's right. There's a change that that was referenced in the overview that you just received by Representative Vyhovsky that you won't see in the bill anymore because the change was made before the bill made it to the floor. And that was to remove some restrictions around engaging lobbyists and using funds to engage someone who could be perceived as a lobbyist, I believe. This was removed from the very end of this section following subsection I. Is this right? Am I looking at the wrong version?
I
might be looking at the wrong version.
Yeah.
I had pulled a... Sorry.
It says at the bottom of page 5 that no part of any funds appropriated by the commission, et cetera, shall be used indirectly for legislative or administrative, et cetera. And it's lined out, but it's there.
Yes, I apologize. I had pulled up the original version to take a look at what was deleted in section 1, and I think I started looking at that version instead when I switched back. So yes, subsection I, parts 1 and 2 are removed. This, after review of this by the House Government Operations Committee and a survey of other committees, commissions, councils, we were unable to find any other such restriction for another board or commission at the state. So at the request of the Commission on Women, this section was removed.
Which means that there is no prohibition on them advocating for positions.
Okay.
Yes, I believe the concern was around was the commission being able to have certain contracts. It would have limited their ability to contract with who they needed to do their work, as some of those would technically fall under those definitions of legislative or administrative advocacy.
Amber, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You said that the House Government Operations Committee struck that out, but I thought for some reason the Sunset Advisory Commission did.
We did.
Okay.
I mean, we originally wanted to remove the prohibition on, so I don't know if that didn't make it into the bill or not, but.
Okay.
There was testimony on it. I believe it was still in there and that I needed to delete it.
Okay.
My memory, though, I will say at this moment is growing a little faulty.
You know,
This
now
was
that
a while
I think about it, I remember myself and gosh, I'm not going to remember his name now.
Matt Krause.
Matt Krause, both had I don't know. I don't want to characterize it incorrectly. Maybe mild concern about striking it, but the rest of the Sunset Advisory Commission felt strongly that it should be removed. So maybe we did leave it in, figuring that the House would take testimony and then make a decision to either leave it in or strike it. So it looks like they did, and I think.
I believe that is the case because when I was just looking at the wrong as introduced version, it is in there without the strike through. So it was a change that was made after following testimony.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Plana, did you have a question? I saw your hand up.
No, I was just fooling with my glasses.
Okay. So is that it on the Commission on Women section?
Section 6 also relates to the Commission on Women, but those I would say are more technical. Just saying that the Commission on Women is being redesignated and allows the Office of the Legislative Counsel to revise any other parts in the statutes that that now has an incorrect cross-reference.
Great. So are there any more questions for Amarin on this? Do we need to go through the rest of the bill? I think the rest of is more self-explanatory. That I think that needed a little bit of explanation maybe for people who hadn't heard the conversation before.
Sure.
So then I would propose that we, if we want to hear from any of the parties involved in here, I guess we can do that. And the other one then I would like to do is follow up on the State Board of Education issue. So does anybody feel that we need to hear from any of the parties involved in this bill? Or yes, Senator Clarkson.
I take it that Carrie Brown and the Commission on Women was fine with these changes?
I believe they were the ones that brought them to she was the one that brought them to the boards and commissions meeting.
Sorry, I missed some of that. I had to switch computer. Anyway, I apologize.
No, it's okay. It happens to all of us. So I think then, unless there's other issues before us on this one that yes, Senator Rahm, did you have a question?
I mean, so I was just sort of skimming through it, and I think just being new, my only question or concern is not what's in the bill, but what isn't in the bill. Kind of, these are a lot of cleanup changes or some meaningful changes to specific boards and commissions. I know other boards and commissions, and the experience right now in the Climate Council is one of trying to be more flexible about stipends and compensation, and maybe differentiate it a little bit if there's a need, or have a sliding scale, or recognize that there's commissions or groups that are being asked to do 4 to 6 hours of work in the case of the Climate Council, but they're still constrained by board and commission rules about compensation. So that's the one thing I'm hearing about boards and commissions that I just wanted to raise while we're having a conversation about boards and commissions.
So I will speak for the committee that's dealing with this. This is a 3-year committee, and 2 years ago we eliminated a number of boards and commissions. I don't know how many we've eliminated up to this point right now, maybe 40 or 50.
That would be a good guess.
And or have changed statutes to more accurately reflect what they're doing now than what they were doing when they were originally set up. One of the our charges is to look at the issue of compensation, and that's on the schedule to be dealt with this summer.
Okay, that's really helpful.
Yeah. And that's for boards and commissions in general. There's an issue. And I mean, this is a very complicated issue, and it also involves having the Secretary of State's office set up a database that's interactive and can be used by people out there in the community. And so we're working with the archivist to get that set up and stuff. So that will probably come at the end of this summer in a recommendation, I would suspect, Senator Collmore.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Senator Clarkson.
Yeah, I I had a bill, and I think, I don't remember, Chair, do you remember, it was 2 or 3 years ago, to raise the compensation. It hadn't been touched for a long, long time, the compensation for serving on a board or commission. So, and that was a piece of what also added to this 3-year review. So we found out that, this whole compensation issue is long overdue. And on the other hand, it's a huge amount of money. And we're balancing cost, people's time, trying to be thoughtful about it. And I'm not sure we could ever fairly compensate people for what is civic engagement and a per diem to offset some of their losses. So it's I think a big issue. And so I'm really glad this task force is taking that on, this or committee or task force or whatever you call yourself.
Well, I don't know what I think we call ourselves a commission, and then we'll eliminate ourselves when we're done. I don't know what.
The compensation
it is a very
one of the issues that got part of this going.
It is the compensation issue is very, very complicated, and it different departments handle it differently. And the standard is $50 a day, and that it's not much money. We also pay $30 a day for jury duty, just so that you know that has not changed, and that's all we pay for jury duty. So and it is a huge amount of money. If we increased everybody to $100 a day, it would be. I can't remember what the amount was, but
it was in a fiscal note on my bill.
It's huge. It's huge. And anyway, and some boards and commissions do more work than others, and I don't know if you pay by the hour or how you do it, or it's very complicated, but we are going to deal with that this summer. And I believe we have the co-chair of the boards and commissions committee or commission with us right now to address us on a different bill. But so are we all set with what is the number? H
122.
122 for today?
I think so. We're going to hear further about the school board.
Yeah.
Education. Right.
Okay, so let's move to H 135, the ethics bill. So Representative Gannon, welcome.
Thank you, Senator White. So H 135 is actually one of two, just so people understand for background, is one of two ethics bills that House Government Operations has been working on. This is basically a bill with technical corrections that were recommended by the Ethics Commission with respect to its responsibilities. A separate ethics bill that's still in our committee that deals with the ethics code and putting it into statute. So that is a separate bill that we hope that we will be working on in the remainder of the session. So I just for background, I thought that's important to understand, so that there's actually two ethics bills. So I said most of this is technical corrections. It deals with staggering the terms of the Ethics Commission, among other things. It allows the executive director of the State Ethics Commission to provide both verbal guidance as well as written guidance. And it allows him to consult with respect to that guidance with other people that may be impacted by it. So for example, if he gets a request for ethics guidance from an agency head and believes that that guidance would be helpful to all agency heads, he can consult with those other agency heads with respect to developing his advisory opinion. So I think, those are some of the key changes. There's many technical changes, such as changing the name of the Department of Human Resources document that contains conflict of interest rules. It was referred to as a code of ethics that does not exist. And there's a change to one of the appointing authorities to the State Ethics Commission. So those are very technical changes. One thing I should mention, I know the executive director emailed at least Senator White about this, is that when the bill went to appropriations, the language with respect to allowing the executive director to hire someone was removed. There's a lot of confusion about when that position would need to be hired. And so just to keep things simple, that language was removed for this time.
Remind me here if we made this change before or if this is in here. I don't have the bill right in front of me right now, and I apologize. But because I only have one implement to use right now. But did we already change the language around who advisory opinions are given to or who can request them?
Yeah.
Or is that in here? We changed that last year?
I believe we did. No.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh yeah, no, there's been change. No, there is a change with respect to this. Not only can it be existing officers and employees, but it can be also prospective officers and employees. So that's a change that's made in there.
But it makes it clear that it's to the people who are covered by the ethics, who are subject to it, that ask for the advisory opinion. So an outside agency or group could not ask for an advisory opinion. Is that made clear in here?
Not in, yes, it is. No, that change was not made in 135. I think it's.
Okay, I think if we haven't made that change, we need to make that change because that's what caused the big flap.
No, it's been made. And then another significant change is changing the disclosure from biannual to annual. Because as the State Ethics Commission pointed out, somebody could, have income in the year that they're not reporting their income that we would want to know about. And so by requiring annual disclosure, you can't escape disclosing all your income from all different sources. So for example, you could have a source of income that you don't want anybody to know about. So you get it in the year you don't have to file financial disclosure. So this way you can't do that, which I thought was a great catch by the executive director.
I wish we could do the same thing around the rebates, the tax rebates, so that people who have a lot of unearned income and who file for a rebate in 1 year because their income is limited, and then next year make all the additions to their houses and trade in their cars and buy their new motorcycle, and then don't report it. I mean, they do it that year, so then they don't get a rebate, and then the next year they get another rebate. So anyway, I wish we could do the same thing with that. But any questions for Representative Gannon? Yes, Senator Collmore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I've got the bill in front of me. I just want to make sure I'm clear on what the senator from Wyndham just asked. The language now reads: the executive director may provide to a person who will be subject to the provisions of this chapter upon his or her request guidance with respect to that person's duties regarding any provision of this chapter or regarding any other issue related to governmental ethics. So I understand what that means, but the chair was correct that this surfaced a while back because there was an opinion that had to do with someone that was running for office, I believe, and you say that that was struck, Representative Gannon, but was it struck before this iteration of the bill?
I believe that's correct, because we took that up, I think 2 years ago.
Okay.
With respect to an advisory opinion that was issued with respect to the governor that was sought by a third party entity. Where the process that should have been filed is that third party entity, if they had a problem, they should have filed a complaint, and that the complaint, as you know, complaints are confidential. And so I believe what they were attempting to do was get around the confidentiality of a complaint versus an advisory opinion.
So that's already in existing law.
I am almost positive that's been resolved.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll just make sure that the language is very clear, because I think there was never an intent to allow outside parties to ask for an advisory opinion. Advisory opinion was advice to us. That's what it means, advice to us. And I'm not sure that it was an attempt to get around the complaint system, but I think there really was a misunderstanding, both at the level of VPIRG, who is the one that asked for the advisory opinion, and from the Ethics Commission itself, because they actually issued one. And so I think that there was misunderstanding about the intent of the legislation. So we'll just make sure that it's very clear, so that doesn't happen again. But I think Representative Gannon is right that we may have cleared that up. I will say, Representative Gannon, I'm glad you brought up the Code of Ethics, because when I saw that we only got the technical changes, I put on our schedule that we're going to start dealing with the Code of Ethics. But if you're doing that already, then we won't address that until we get it from you.
Yeah, and the reasoning behind having two separate bills was this is for the most part technical changes, which we don't think anyone is going to object to. The Code of Ethics may be another issue altogether. And so keeping them separate would not have held up these important changes.
No, I appreciate that. I'm glad you said that you were going to be working on that, because I had already put on our schedule for next week that we were going to start dealing with it. But I don't think there's any point. Committee, do you think there's any point to doing it as long as they're doing it, then we'll get it?
Sure.
Okay. All
I have
right.
a quick question.
Sure.
In terms of the advisory opinions, it says at the bottom of page 11, that you provide it to a person who is or will be subject to the provisions of this chapter. Does that mean somebody who might be about to take a job, and so they're seeking an opinion about something before they take the job? Is that what that's meant to be?
That's my understanding.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to be clear.
If you're going to take a job and you want to be sure whether your consulting company would be a conflict of interest somehow or against the ethics of the state, or if you're going to run for office and you find that you have to give up your job, or would this be a conflict or something?
Yeah.
I think that's what it means.
Okay.
I would guess. Okay. Any more questions for Representative Gannon? All right.
Nope.
We'll let you go back to your busy floor schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you see the picture behind him? Did you guys see the picture behind him there? He was, he raises turkeys, and the bear got into his turkey feed, into the feed bags, and it scattered the turkeys all over the place. The bear didn't eat the turkeys, but ate the feed. And so the only way he could get the turkeys back in the pen was to put the bag of feed over his shoulder, and they followed him. That's what that picture is. Anyway.
It's been his picture actually for a while now.
Yeah, he has one of the turkeys in the summer too. So, Larry Novins, do you want to join us? And
I would love to. Thank you. Good afternoon. It's nice to see you all again
It's good to see you too.
on a day that feels like spring.
Getting there.
Yeah, really.
Representative Gannon brought up a couple things that I'd like to address, and just for your memories, last year H634 had essentially everything that was in this bill, H135. But because of COVID, it didn't go anywhere. So the provisions about limiting who can ask for advisory opinions or guidance were not in the law. They are in this bill. And the idea behind it is to make very clear that advisory opinions and guidance are not available to people outside of state government. And that they are limited to people who are asking about their own affairs. So I could not ask, is Jim Condos doing something unethical? I could ask, is what I'm planning to do a problem or not? But what we want to avoid is what happened with that advisory opinion, and that is being in a position to play gotcha and issuing statements about people who weren't involved in the process. The idea is to be a resource for people in state government, excuse me, and to be able to be responsive to them when they have questions about their own conduct. So if I had Gesundheit, if I had a question about someone else's conduct and I called the Ethics Commission, the answer would be, sorry, I can't address your concern with someone else. If you'd like to ask them to call me, call the Ethics Commission. They'll be happy to hear from you. So that's what we did in this bill. That's what we asked for last year. About a year and a half ago, we adopted this as our policy, and that has been our policy ever since. But it is not, doesn't have the force of law. It is just an internal Ethics Commission policy. But that's a big change, and it's a very important change for all the reasons that the chair outlined a moment ago, or a few moments ago.
But Larry,
Yes,
that's in this bill, you're saying?
It is in this bill, yes.
I just don't see it. I'm not saying it's not there, but I've been flipping
In
through the pages.
1225,
Say that again, I'm sorry.
in section 1225, which is on page 26 of the bill as it was passed, the official version, the
No, I'm
executive
looking at,
director.
mine only goes up to page 15.
Yeah, that's all we have is page 15.
Okay, well, let me look back.
The bottom of page 11 is where section
Thank you.
1225
Let me go
starts.
back up to page 11.
Thank you, Amarin.
24. Yeah. Okay. So it says the executive director may provide to a person who is or will be subject to the provisions of this chapter, upon his or her request, guidance with respect to that person's duties.
I guess the question is it necessary to put in there that it doesn't ever, it's just silent on the requests from other people. And is it necessary to put in here that advisory opinions, or whatever they're called, are not available to persons who are not covered by, I think that being proactive and actually saying that would be
Yeah. Well,
wise.
the section, excuse me,
Oh.
the section on advisory opinions, which is on, again, on page 13, section B. It says, on the request of a person who is or will be subject to the provisions of this chapter, the executive director may issue an advisory opinion to that person that provides general advice or interpretation with respect to that person's duties. So I think it's very clear.
I agree with you that that's very clear, but it doesn't proactively say you can't give an opinion to anybody else. I think that even if you put in a word only, may
Right.
issue an advisory opinion only to.
That would be fine. I have no problem with that.
Is that what you were driving at, Senator Polina?
Yes. Because, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but with the VPIRG example, if VPIRG really had a problem with what was going on, they could have filed a complaint or something, right? They not through the Ethics Commission, but there's stuff they could have done if they wanted to raise that issue, not asking for an advisory opinion.
What the time they acted and requested the intercession of the Ethics Commission, there was no code.
And there was nothing really at that point for the Ethics Commission to opine about.
So was there anywhere for VPERG to turn though in that case?
No, I mean,
Okay.
except to the electorate, but.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Well, I think that there was a real misunderstanding about the advisory opinions, and the misunderstanding also existed on the Ethics Commission itself, because they ended up giving an advisory opinion to VPERG. And so I think it's really important to make it clear in here that the advisory opinions are only meant for those who are covered.
I agree.
That was our intent, and that was the issue that really compelled the drafting of this section.
Right.
Was to make it clear to the outside world. We've told everybody, and it's in our policy, if you want us to give you an opinion about somebody else's conduct, we're not going to do it. But we wanted it to be in the statute to make it clear. So if you want to add the word only to make something that is clear, abundantly clear, great. You know, we have no problem with that whatsoever.
I would like to do that. I don't know about other committee members, because I want to avoid this argument again. Senator Collmore?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree. And Larry, in a sense, it is belts and suspenders, but I agree with the chair. And I think it appears in more than one sentence. We're looking
it
at.
appears in two places. It appears in the section on guidance.
Correct.
And it appears on the section on advisory opinions, both sections.
So I would suggest that we put the word only in both places.
Well, isn't guidance a little bit different? Isn't guidance, if you have 3 requests for an advisory opinion on a certain issue, and you think, oh, this might be something that's kind of generally misunderstood, you can issue a guidance. So it isn't just about my own conduct, but you can issue a general guidance that says, if you're thinking about getting a second job, you might want to make sure that it isn't in conflict with your first job, or something like that. It's a general guidance as opposed to specifically aimed at an individual's actions.
I think it should be very clear that advisory opinions are not aimed at individuals at all. They are to be general. And so the advisory opinion that the Ethics Commission issued, which related to one person, would not, under this scenario, be issued. That is not a proper subject for an advisory opinion. If we had, if we had received several questions from people in state government saying, what about my second job? How does this line up with my duties as a state public servant? Then maybe that would be something that would be appropriate for an advisory opinion. And what we put in this bill is when we engage in that kind of activity and are going to issue something that would be of general impact to many people, that we would be able to open it up and ask for public input. Basically, it's sort of like rulemaking. If we're going to offer and opine about the propriety of people with second jobs, I want to hear not only from the person who has the question regarding their job, but other people in state government who may have the same issue, who are unaware the issues being raised with us. I think the more input we have before we issue an advisory opinion, the better we'll be. It makes the whole process more open, more transparent. And
So
it gives us a record.
I've gotten myself all wrapped around something here. But I thought you just said you don't issue an advisory opinion to a person, to a personal. I thought that the way, and maybe I've completely misremembered this, that I call you and say, do you think this would be a violation? Whatever it is. And you give me some advice. You give an advisory to me that you give me advice. This is what we think. This is you might want to think about this, you might want to think about that, but you're giving me some advice. Then so I thought that was what an advisory opinion was. It was issued to me about that issue that I called you about. And then if 7 people call you about the exact same issue, that you, at some point you say, whoa, this might be a general misunderstanding by lots of people. Maybe we should issue some guidance on this particular issue. That's the way I understood the difference between an advisory opinion and guidance.
Yes, I feel the same. I agree with you. That's sort of how I would have thought of it.
The language in the statute is a little misleading and it's somewhat problematic. When somebody calls and asks me, what should I do? That under this statute is called guidance. An advisory opinion is a formal opinion that is issued for general circulation regarding any number of people and something that would come up in state government capable of repetition, that should be addressed. But when I get a telephone call or a letter and somebody says, Larry, I've got this problem, I've got this conflict of interest, something that falls under the category of guidance. And
so
what
I had it
issue then
backwards.
is guidance, yeah.
Oh, so I had
So-
it backwards.
Well, I mean, the language, the choice of words is a little confusing because when I issue guidance, I'm advising somebody, and that's where
Yeah.
the confusion comes.
Maybe we should change the language.
I can explain it to people when they call. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, I just want to make it clear that it isn't, that then the guidance is also only to us.
And it's very clear
Yeah.
in our amendments that the
And I
guidance
think
is
that's
person
what
specific.
was, okay, good. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Senator Perlina? You're muted.
I understand that the guidance is directed at a person. Then there's the advisory opinions. My question is whether any of these, I know the guidance is never released to the public. Is there any time when when an advisory opinion or something would be released in general, or would it just be released to the people on the inside, the ones who it might affect?
if we release an advisory opinion, it is a public document. It is
Okay.
available to everyone.
Thanks.
And in fact, the guidance, if I'm reading correctly, is exempt from the Public Records Act.
Correct. It's confidential.
Okay, I get it now. So we only need one only.
I'm sorry?
We only need one only. Since guidance by its definition involves a sole person,
Right.
I think the advisory opinion is the only one that we should probably further clarify by saying only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. Any other questions or?
I had a couple of other things if
Sure.
you have a moment.
Well, we do. It's yours.
Great. Two things that came up. One is in section 1211 on the annual reports. I mean, the annual disclosure forms. And we're changing it. Right now it says biennial. We're changing it to annual, which makes sense. And Representative Gannon explained why that is. When people fill out those forms, though, and this is a problem that came up in January, people filled out the forms, and for the income for the preceding year, they left blank. And I couldn't figure out what was going on with the form. People were misreading the form. The statute asks people to give their financial information regarding the previous calendar year. And so most people, they fill out the form in January, and the previous calendar year is very simple. It's the year before. But the statute also says that if you're appointed or you begin your position, say in November, then you have to fill out the disclosure form for the previous calendar year. So if I was appointed in November, or if I'm appointed this coming November to a job, I would fill out a form and I would disclose my 2020 income, which is now almost a year old. So what we're hoping we could do is to ask you if you would make an amendment to change previous calendar year to previous 12 months. That would just make it very clear that if no matter when I fill out the form, I'm filling out the form for the preceding 12 months.
And this is for the commissioners, right?
This is for anyone who fills out an executive officer disclosure.
Executive
form for the
officer.
commissioners. Yeah.
Yeah.
And every 99% of the people are doing it correctly now. But if somebody is appointed to a position mid-year, then we end up with stale information. So to me, it makes perfect sense, but I often think things make perfect sense and other people look at it otherwise. So, but I have a hard time imagining people are going to have a big problem with that. It's just, to my mind, it's clarifying.
Committee? Yeah, okay. All right. Are there other issues that you want in here?
Well, the other is the one I wrote about this morning, and that is the issue of should we be able to hire part-time administrative staff? And
I will admit that I have not even seen my email really today, except around a potential amendment. So
the bill went through. Well, as you know, we proposed this bill last year, the end of 2019, and it became H 634 last year, and then it went on COVID pause and then was reintroduced this year. So we asked almost a year and a half ago if we could have some administrative assistance, so that I am not the only person doing everything that happens in the Ethics Commission. And what I attached to my email to you was a page from our annual report outlining the different things that as executive director I have to do every week or every month or whenever it comes up. And there's just a long list of things like maintaining the website, getting in all the disclosure forms, creating the page that they go on, loading them up. This year, I think there were about 80 forms, and putting each form on the web is like a 13-step process. And I will admit law school didn't train me for this, and it isn't my first choice of things to do. But I think there are probably better ways that I could use my time than doing some of those things. So it's on the document I gave you. I think my position is or will be unsustainable if I have to spend a significant portion of my time doing all these other things. And I will tell you right now that if I'd known when I joined the Ethics Commission that I was going to be responsible for all these other things, I wouldn't have taken the job. And I was under a misapprehension when I started about whose responsibility that would be. If I were to ever leave, I don't know anybody in their right mind who would take this job with all the, just the administrative responsibilities. It's too bad that we're doing this remotely. I have a great story I could tell, after hours about the 3 weeks it took me to get a printer so that I could work from home after I was told after 11 months that I wasn't allowed to use a state printer anymore. That's the kind of little stuff that just eats up inordinate amounts of time. And if there was any way that we could have a part-time assistant, that would be very helpful. And I suggested some language in my email to you. And I apologize, I don't believe I CC'd Ameren on this. I did CC John Gannon, but I didn't CC Ameren. I can send her a copy of what I sent you, but that would be a big deal for us, and a big help.
Can you explain what happened because Representative Gannon just alluded to it going to approps and they taking it out because there was misunderstanding, and before you do that, I saw that Senator Collmore had his hand up.
Well, it's germane, but I'd certainly be willing to listen to Mr. Nolbin's answer. I read his email, and I'm just trying to get a sense of the dollar amount. You said your budget for 2022 is 113,000, I think. You're looking for a half-time. So does that mean that you're looking for somebody for about $56,000?
With salary and benefits and getting them a computer and a phone would be about, I was told to ask for $60,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So now to the chair's question, why was it taken out? What was the misunderstanding? I don't know.
The only thing I have is what I got in an email from John Gannon, which I quoted to you in my email this morning. And that is let me see if I can find it here. That they felt the language that was in the preceding draft was too vague, and that the decision could be put off since additional staff was tied to the passage of the Code of Ethics. And I have to say, I didn't know this hearing was going on, and I wasn't asked to attend. So I was not able to speak up and defend that part of our proposal, which had been approved by the House Government Operations Committee. So it was a surprise to me when I was preparing for today and decided to read through the bill, that I noticed that was missing. And then I wrote to Representative Gannon, and that's what he told me. So it was a surprise and a bit of a shock after asking, 14, 15 months ago for this, for it to be all of a sudden yanked without having had an opportunity to be heard on that. So the other thing is we do have some money. Apparently in the first year, there was about $50,000 or $60,000 left over that's in a reserve fund. And I have to say this is a little over my pay grade, but this is what I'm told. But we were told that if we got permission to have a part-time slot, it would not require us to make a budget request for FY 2020. So my understanding is we could do it without an appropriation for this next year.
You need permission to get the position,
Yeah,
but not the appropriation.
Correct.
And then, but you asked for this 14 months ago, so it is not tied to the implementation of the Code of Ethics.
Not in my mind, no,
Yeah.
not at all. And I don't know where that came from. I mean, the day-to-day operation of the Ethics Commission requires a lot of administrative work. And if I could have help for it, I could dedicate more of my time to things that are uniquely within my skill set. One of the things I'd like to do is more reach out and more education, ethics education. I'm going to be doing a training for one department in a couple of weeks, and I hope to be able to offer it to more departments and to get out and reach out to more people. And if I'm loading disclosure reports onto the internet, that's not the best use of I think, our taxpayer dollars. So,
Senator Clarkson?
I think that makes a lot of sense, Larry. I guess I'm also concerned in your email after you say the line you propose is the executive director is authorized to employ a half-time administrative assistant. The next sentence says a code of ethics will not be passed this year.
I don't see how it can be passed this year because we've already passed crossover.
It won't be. The House committee is still working on it.
It was only introduced on March 9th.
Right.
So nobody's even had a hearing on it yet. It is
Right.
not, I don't know. I mean, I would love if there was a way it could be passed this year, but it's not, in my understanding, how things work.
As you know, magic can happen if testimony is taken and if people agree to attach it to something that's applicable. These things can happen. So anyway, okay, so that's why right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I stand ready to be amazed.
Right.
I would not stand ready if I were you, because I think the passage of a state code of ethics is going to take a lot of testimony from a lot of different people, and I don't think it's a slam dunk. And it has to go through the House and through us. So there is no way this is going to happen by middle of May.
So the second part of my question is, you refer to the American Rescue Plan as having money in it for this work. Is that, help us understand the intersection between what we may be seeing with the American Rescue Plan and your office?
I received an email the end of February saying, hey, we may be getting some money. Do you have a wish list? Essentially is what it was. And I went, great. I'll tell them that we've asked for a position in H-135 and we've got funding for it. But if there's a way to make an appropriation for it, great. We'd be happy to have it. It was more of a wish than anything else, but it seemed ill-advised to let that opportunity go by without saying anything. So that's what we did. And the only reason I reference that is to show that the state, if we're talking about $60,000, I don't think that's the issue. The issue is, well, I don't really understand what the issue is, but in the grand scheme of things, the $60,000 is not going to adversely affect the state budget if we're getting in, $1.3 billion for different things. I remember last year, everybody thinking we are in dire straits and it's going to be a horrible year. And I think everybody is equally pleased that it hasn't turned out that way.
And if I may ask, who let you know that there might be money that could be channeled towards the Ethics Commission?
Let's see. The email went from Adam Gresham
Okay,
to
so
all the agency administration people, and the people who do our budget work sent it to me. So that's how I heard about it.
terrific.
Well, I think that we can easily put in the request for a half-time position.
Yeah.
And then the Appropriations Committee can figure out whether it should come from, where it would come from. But in the bottom line is that if it's in a reserve fund, it can come from there if it can't come from someplace else.
Agreed.
Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Anything else for Larry? So Amron, you are adding the word only and requesting a position?
I also have the 12-month period versus calendar year.
Great.
Is that okay? And for the position, where did we land on whether there needs to be an appropriation for this next fiscal year?
I don't think there needs to be, because if it's in the reserve fund, appropriations will take it from there. If unless they take it from someplace else and leave that in the reserve fund. But I don't think, we'll leave that up to the Appropriations Committee.
All
right. They'll have us come in anyway and
right,
tell them where to take it from. Or we could put in that a request for $60,000.
I would
to fund it and then
pull it out.
Yeah, let's put it in. And then appropriations, because then it will go to appropriations. And then they can figure out where best to take it from. Okay.
But may I just clarify, Madam Chair? Larry, your position is still not full-time.
Correct.
Should it be?
Yeah. I mean, if we're asking, and if Adam Gresham feels that there is money for this, and it will be over a certain number of years. I mean, we're not fully clear on everything in the American Rescue Plan for states and administration, but I think this would be the time for us to actually think about that. If you feel it actually needs to be, particularly if we're doing the code of ethics, or do we, after we pass a code of ethics, is that the moment to make it full time? I think that the work leading up to that code of ethics is going to take a lot of your time, and a lot more time than you have now.
Yeah. I mean, I spent the better part of last summer and last fall putting this draft together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's now, mostly in your hands, and whatever assistance I can provide during the process, I will provide. But I don't see that I can't do that in my current half-time position. When and if it's passed, and then we start talking about what happens next, then at that point we might consider making it a full-time job. I don't think it's essential to do that right now.
Okay.
I mean, if I were full-time and I had no staff, I'd spend part of my time doing administrative work, which, as you can tell, I'm trying to avoid.
Well, I think it makes more sense to ask for an administrative position now. And then when I think that Adam Gresham was not necessarily saying this money is here for the Ethics Commission. He sent it to, my understanding from Larry is he sent it to everybody
Yeah,
saying,
Yeah.
if you have requests.
No,
So
I didn't feel I'd been singled out for largesse.
too bad, huh?
Yeah.
Any other
That's
questions
amazing.
for Larry?
Yes.
No, I just said, are there any other questions for Larry? So I'm both a little disappointed and relieved that House GovOps is actually taking up the draft of the Code of Ethics. Relieved because we have enough to do, but disappointed because it would have been fun to take the first stab at it. But if they're doing that, we'll leave it to them, I think.
And I look forward to speaking with them.
So maybe what we should do is we'll have Ameren get us a copy of this, and then I think we're just ready to pass this out. Am I right, committee? Do we need more testimony on this from any place? Really technical changes.
nope, I'm happy with it with those changes.
Senator Rahm,
Yep.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
Senator Collimer.
Yep.
Okay, so let's do that, and then one day next week we'll just vote it out.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll let you know when we put it on the agenda so that you can come and make sure that we do what we're supposed to do.
Okay, I'll stay in touch with Ameren, and
Yeah.
I'm sure she will
Thank you.
have it perfect the first time, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, committee, I did not schedule anything more for today because I didn't know how long this would all take. So I don't know if anybody has any turtles they need to feed.
I don't know, the
Well,
term,
it's a little early for my turtle, but not saying I wouldn't, it doesn't deserve it.
Yes, Gail?
Madam Chair, do we need to take a vote on the amendment for S15?
Oh, we don't need to take an official vote.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we do we, committee?
No, I think the chair will, or the president will ask whether a third reading, and then you could just indicate that the committee met and considered
Approves
it a
it.
friendly amendment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
unanimously approved it. I don't,
what did you decide? I guess that was when
Oh,
my.
you didn't vote. Yeah, you didn't get to vote because you weren't.
oh, yes.
Can I?
Oh, we're not going to tell you, Senator Clarkson.
No, it's a
Oh,
secret.
okay.
It's a secret.
Besides, it's like 30 pages, Allison.
So go read it. No, it is simply asks for a report from the Secretary of State by January 30th, 2023, which they said is very doable for them because they already know the answers to most of the questions. A report on the impact, the issues related to mail out for primaries and municipal elections, and the impact on those individuals and communities who have been disenfranchised and for whom voting has been an issue. I don't remember exactly how that's worded, but it's whatever was in the original thing.
It's on our webpage now, Allison.
Good. And so did you do an official vote?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
I don't know that we need to.
Okay. So, but
Do we need to? I mean, we can.
We're supportive of it.
Yeah, we do support it.
Yep.
And the Secretary of State supported it. And Senator Parent was very gracious in continuing to come down from where he started. Okay.
Well, I think we all appreciate it. It's more complex than perhaps we think of at first blush.
Yeah. All right. So committee, is there anything else we need to do? Or do you want an early day off from school?